And that's when we saw the new entrance of other radio stations like your Star FM, your ZFM, to the time we have when the Second Republic came. So from 3 radio stations to later 4. Okay, let me talk about the new millennium, when Zimbabwe actually repositioned their radio stations. That's when we had the renaming of the radio stations. Your Radio 3 became Power FM. Radio 1 became Sport FM, later on SFM, and now Classic 263, and your Radio 2 became Radio Zimbabwe. The Radio 4 became National FM. It was the repositioning to say we were continuing in the same path that Rhodesia left us without us considering local content. 2001, and there was an outcry about local content. Then it seemed like a big thing to say local content we could not manage. But look at it now. We can even play 100% local content. Even South Africa later on took the path that we took back in 2001. And that's where we are. But 2012, the deregulation of the broadcasting industry. ZBC was a monopoly then, but you look now, we have to call 16 national and local commercial radio stations in Zimbabwe. Add to that community radio stations, we get to 34. We are excluding campus radio stations. Because most of our universities have their campus. If you add those, you get to 40-something radio stations in just a period of 7 years. From 2017, when the Second Republic came, up to now, we have got to something like over 40 radio stations, which is massive. But when we have to get to that, TV stations, say now from the Zoom Papers table, we have your ZTN Prime, you have your 3K TV, I have your Kiona, NRA TV, and ZBC TV. Of course, if you add ZBC Jive and ZBC News, of course, you get to 7 TV stations. But when you get to all those big numbers, problems are always going to come. How are you going to sustain all these media houses, all these many radio stations, the TV stations? Because the advertising cake is still the same, or maybe even shrinking. Because of the new media or the social media and so forth, the advertising cake is actually shrinking. The question now is, how are you going to sustain yourself? And the laws, are we going to maintain the same laws that we had when we had the 3 radio stations and several newspapers? Things have drastically changed, and hence the requirement of a new policy to say, first, how do we sustain ourselves? And how do we regulate ourselves in this industry that has grown in leaps and bounds?
Very interesting when you get to give the historical background, Director, looking at where it all began, how it evolved, and now we talk of more than 10 radio stations. We are going to continue, obviously, tapping into your wisdom and understanding what has happened over time. His experience, letting us know what has happened over time, is what we will shape, of course, the discussions today for us to be able to understand the media policy that is being launched by His Excellency. Now, like I said, that we do have our crew on the ground on standby at the State House. We now cross over to Monica and Mengani at the State House. Good morning, and it's over to you.
Thank you, Ian. And we're coming to you live from State House, where today His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa, set to launch a Zimbabwe media and communications policy, and indeed promoting media diversity, media excellence, and promoting that cultural heritage among the media landscape. Sovereignty also being part of that objective of the media. My name is Monica Chanda, not here alone with my comrades.
Izina ndibengani tiko kuno ku State House nasima kamu ijibe gulwana kasa kumulingwa kuti kuno tulwa kale unkwala unokuwa kutoberejwa unkwala unobona nokondeswa kwendebo namhlanje kusemzini wesizwe ngapha State House ilizongubengani lapho okangene khona umongameli welizwe Comrade Emmerson Mnangagwa aza kwethula khona isinqumo esilandelwayo, isinqumo esibona ukuqhuba kwezenzindaba. Sikhangela njalo ukuthi linto izaphathisa kakhulu ukubona ukuthi kulondolozwa imbali yelizwe, kubona njalo ukuthi kulandelwa imithetho kakhulu nxa kuqhutshwa lumsebenzi. Isinqumo lesi sikhangelwe njalo ukuthi sizakwenelisa ukuthi abantu bazwakale kundawana zonke zelizwe okuhambelana lalokho okhulunywa umongameli welizwe Monica. Umongameli welizwe ukukhuluma isithi ilizwe leZimbabwe lakhiwa ngabanikazi balo, libuswe ngabanikazi balo. Amazwi lawo kumele athulwe ekhulunywa ngabantu beZimbabwe indawana zonke, Monica.
Absolutely, and that access to information being very critical. But it's also about the landscape of the media, enhancing the landscape of the media, whether we're talking public or private media, and also ensuring that the agenda around development issues, the agenda around ensuring that the public space is also given that access to that critical information. And without much ado, we will also be taking you through some of those interviews as we speak to various stakeholders as they get to also give us their insight in this media policy and why it is very critical to the various sectors of the economy. And I am now joined by the acting permanent secretary in the Ministry of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, Mr. Jonathan Gandari. It's good to have you. A great day indeed for the media space.
This is a fantastic day. This is all we have waited for many years.
Let's talk about the objective behind it. Why this event? Why are we launching this media policy?
This is a culmination of so many years of work, hard work. So to start with, there was a request from our stakeholders. We were asked very hard questions by our stakeholders. They were asking us, how do we regulate the media without a media policy? How do we know the direction that the government wants us to go if we don't have government policy? And the academia were also asking us, what do we teach when we teach the module of media policy and development? What do we teach? The policy is not there. So this is a response to the groundswell of needs by our stakeholders.
That response, we obviously have a private and a public media in Zimbabwe. In terms of ensuring that that regulation, but also there is that freedom of expression, but driving responsible journalism, how is this policy set to shape that?
So this policy is for everyone. It's for everybody, it's for everyone, for every media house. It is not for public media alone, it is not for private media alone. Media is media as far as we are concerned as government. So what we are doing with this is to provide those guidelines that are cross-cutting. Guidelines on ethics, guidelines on technology, guidelines on regulation, which are cross-cutting, so everyone is in there.
The Second Republic has been on a drive in terms of media reforms. We also saw the repealing of some of those aggressive laws. You talk about your IPA, you talk about your POSA. And now with this media policy, how is this set to enhance the way the media operates and, of course, driving that national agenda around development issues, around some of those issues around the law, among many other?
So first is to go to the Constitution. In the Constitution, Section 61, Section 62, it is speaking to issues of media access, media freedom. And on that, then we worked on different broadcasting acts, different media acts. You remember we have Freedom of Access Information Act, which is the bedrock of all the things that we are doing. Because what that act says is we have to allow our people to access information. But also we have to allow media players to flourish. We have to include diversity. We have to have everyone's voice on board. So in order to operationalize that, we are coming up with the various instruments, and this policy is one of them.
We also have seen a rise of fake news, misinformation, disinformation. The curbing or regulation of such practices in the media space, how does this policy enhance that responsibility among the media fraternity and ensuring that we cut on that fake news, that misinformation?
This policy regulates even the podcasters, influencers, and professional journalists. It gives them the parameters. At the center of it is the sanctity of facts. So as we say in journalism, facts are sacred. So whoever is communicating, remember information is a public good. Whoever is communicating, facts must never be compromised. And if you compromise the facts, then we have co-regulation in there where professionals in the same sector are going to bring you to account over and above what government might do through the Zimbabwe Media Commission and the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe, which are two institutions that are set in there to regulate the space.
Maybe finally, the theme is promoting media excellence and diversity for national development. We do know that with Zimbabwe's Vision 2030 towards an upper middle income economy, how does this enhance the reportage around that drive towards Vision 2030 among many other development transformative agendas, especially set under the Second Republic?
So one of the things that this policy brings is that diversity of voices. You remember we set up community radio stations. The idea was to allow communities to express themselves, their culture. In fact, what we're seeing happening now is the revitalization of indigenous cultures. And we're in there having diversity because we don't control what they do. They run those community radio stations on voluntary basis. Chiefs are on the programs, churches are on the programs, everyone is on the program. So the diversity is captured in there. But also, in terms of licensing, everyone is free to apply. If they meet the threshold, they will be licensed. And therefore, from the government point of view, we allow everyone who is ready to start a community radio station, started commercial television station to come on board.
All right. We were speaking to the acting permanent secretary in the Ministry of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, Mr. Jonathan Gandari, who was just unpacking to us the objective behind the launch of today's Zimbabwe Media and Communications Policy, which is also set to ensure that strengthening of media diversity, media plurality, and of course strengthening the need towards that sovereign reportage of many issues bengani.
So mo ukhulumile njalo ukuthi lokhangelwe njalo ukuthi kuzalondoloza imbali yesizwe, sikhangela njalo ukuthi sekusetshenziswa indlela zekulezi insuku i-digital media, konke lokhu kukhangelwa ukuthi kuzakhangelwa njalo, kukhangelwa isinqumo lesi, izinto zonke lezi okumele kuzabunjwa njalo ikomiti ezakhangela lokulandelwa kwesinqumo lesi, kuzaba le steering committee ezabigoqela abenhlanganetho ezehlukeneyo, kunhlangothi abezemfundo zigoqela phakathi abezomthetho. Kukhangelwa njalo ukuthi ilizwe Zimbabwe liyalandela imithetho yelizwe. Sikhangela njalo isekelo sombuso ku section 61.2 bakhuluma njalo ukuthi umuntu wonke kumele enelise ukuthola, kumele ukuthi athole imbiko efaneleyo, njalo umuntu wonke kumele avinjelwe, njalo kumele kubunjwe isisekelo esizabona ukuthi abaqhuba ezemibiko, njalo sikhangela lezi sebenzi ezisebenzela kuhlangothi lolu zizasebenza kuhle, kuzabunjwa ikomiti ezakhangela lokho. We're still here at the State House, and now I'm joined by the ZBC board chairperson, Madam Helet Rushai. Can you please tell us the importance of this policy today?
So the importance of this policy, which is yet to be launched and unveiled, to us, I'll speak on behalf of broadcasters as a national broadcaster. Obviously, our aim is always, our mandate is to inform, educate, and ensure that the citizen, we speak on behalf of Zimbabwean voices and promote Zimbabwean voices locally and abroad. And the importance of this policy, of launching a policy like this, we hope, is to ensure that we, as a media sector, across the various sectors, we speak in a coherent, unified voice. We follow guidelines, we are transparent, we fact check, we give an honest opinion, and we inform the citizenship based on news that is verified and truthful. And it's not just about news, but also even in our entertainment, in the various genres that we cover, that this is meaningful and it promotes our country, Zimbabwe, and our culture and our national unity.
Okay, you spoke about heritage-based broadcasting or communication. There's also the issue of funding gaps that are there. What does this policy say to the gaps that are there in terms of the funding?
So I'm not obviously, I mean, the policy is about to be launched. I don't want to steal the thunder, so we will wait for the relevant higher authorities to launch the policy, and then maybe we can go into the nitty-gritties and the details of the policy.
Okay, it's a very important, given that ZBC is home to national languages that broadcast in almost 14 of the Zimbabwean languages. What does this say about this policy? I hear that this policy speaks about conservation of our culture and our people. So what does it mean about this policy in terms of the reach and the linguistic inclusivity?
So generally, ZBC, we do broadcast in 14, then we have the sign language. But it's important that, it's very important that we maintain the cultural heritage and we maintain the use of communicating in various languages. And to continue doing that, I understand we have to go, so I must run.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time. And we continue here with Stuart State House, where the president is expected to launch this media policy that is expected to bridge the gaps in terms of funding, and also it speaks to heritage-based broadcasting and communication more. It's a very important day, a momentous occasion more.
It is indeed a celebration of the media landscape, and I love the fact that you brought the issue around national languages, because it's about leaving no one and no place behind in terms of that access to information. And so when the public has that access to that information, they get to understand and appreciate the context of the various issues. But never mind, we are in a very evolving world, Bengani, where we are seeing the strengthening of different technologies, and we're seeing all kinds of forms of technologies that are being applied in the media. Talk about even AI, for instance, but it is also, it has its pros and its cons.
Uqakathekile mo nxa sikhangela AI njengokutsho kwakho, siyabona ubungcwethi obuthe babakhona. Isinqumo lesi kumele sikhangele ukuthi njalo singalawula njani ukusebenza kwezinto ezifana nalezi, ukusetshenziswa kwemitshina yekulezi insuku, kuphathisa njalo ukuthi singafinyelela njani. Nxa sikhangela mo, sikhangela uhulumende wesibili, Second Republic, sibonile njalo ukuthi uke wavula ezokusakaza. Sibona njalo ukuthi kulama wireless afika wona 14 ama community radio stations okuveza ukuzinikela uhulumende wesibili ukuthi avule ezokusakaza more.
Indeed, and also about strengthening that innovation, that transformation in the media, ensuring that there is that responsible reportage. But then I am going to be speaking to an honourable who is not quite new to the media landscape. I don't know whether to call him my boss at this point or to say a comrade at this point, but then it is my honour and pleasure. I will be speaking to the Deputy Minister in the Ministry of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, Honourable Ompile Marupi, who is going to be speaking to us in terms of this day and why we are finally celebrating this media policy. Honourable Deputy Minister, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's talk about today's celebration, or should we say the launch of this media and communications policy, and His Excellency the President is set to launch it. Why this media policy and why now?
Now that we are celebrating our Culture Month, I think it's very, very profound and important for me to use our indigenous languages, because our President is always emphasizing the importance of aligning whatever we are doing in our language, and to see into it that's going to be a way of promoting our linguistic terrain as a country. Lamhlanje sikhangeneke lapha ukuthi sizobhiyoza ngalokho okwenzakeleyo, ngani ngoba ke kuyinto eqhakathekileyo kulo umsebenzi ukuthi sitholakale sisiba lesisekelo mbuso lomthetho oqinisa njalo osekela abantu abakulumsebenzi. Ngani ngoba kukhona okube kusilela lapho lalaphayana, kodwa ngenxa yenguquko ekhona eyenziwa ibulembu okulezi insuku, sokudingakala ukuthi umthetho uguqulwe ukuthi intatheli abayibo abasebenza ukuthi basifundise, basinikeze ulwazi ngalokho okwenzakalayo, balele siqiniseko beqiniswa yilokho esikwenza lamhle sithi imedia policy ngesilungu. Ngani ngoba siyabona ukuthi yaphatha kwezemsakazo ama radio stations aseyengeziwe phose sengaba li-14 alokho sayengezwa njalo kuma university asekhona, ama television asekhona, nxa ngingaphosisi asengaba ke yisithupha, kulokhu kusayengezwa amanye njalo. Ikanti ke kwezokuthola ilungelo lokusakaza, imithetho yangikhona esingathi i-license yokuba le radio station le television kuyala kulokhu siyenzwa ukuthi abantu benelise ukuthi bakuthole, kuzokuthi ke ekubhadaliseni kumbe celeni imali yama radio license lakho sokubanjaniswe lokuthi abantu bathole kanye nxa bedinga i-license yemoto le insurance yangikhona kubanjaniswe laphana. Kungani kunjalo? Kuzenza umsebenzi ube lula ukuthi imoto ingatholakali ilamaphetshana amaningi okucina ama driver bengasaboni kuhle lapha bayakhona kumbe besithelwa ngamaphetshana lawana amaningi. Kanti ke leyo mali iyangaphi nxa siyithola? Ngoba abantu bakhangelele indaba ukuthi imali leyi siyinika abe ZBC. Imali leyi kayinikwa iZBC. Imali leyi ikhangelelwe ukuthi izaguqula ukusebenza kwe media industry ngakubeka kanjalo. Ngani ngoba kuzahlalwa phansi kuvunyelwana kuncediswane ukuthi khona na njengoba isitholakele limali iyenziwani. Izinto ezazisenziwa kudala kungakabi yi-Second Republic ngaphansi kukambuso oka Dr. Idim Nangagwa ziyazilokhu ziguqulwa zisenzela ukuthi khona na kusebenzeke ama ministry achiyeneyo elokhu engena khonapho, njengoba libona thina abe information asisebenzisi sodwa, sesingena kwabe transport, singene kwabe ICT, singene kwabe education. Ngani ngoba umongameli uqinisa ukusebenza ama ministries akhe elombono munye ukuthi kungabi labantu abathi bona basalele, sisukume siye phambili sonke ngasikhathi sinye.
And I know you spoke much around the mandate of the media, that information, that education, and of course that entertainment. Also speaking around the different media in Zimbabwe, also touching even on the recently set Broadcasting Services Amendment Act, which was assented by His Excellency the President. Speaking to the licenses itself, but you said in as much as we speak about the broadcasting services, this is not just about the national broadcaster itself, it's about the greater generality of the media landscape. I want us to also look to how the welfare of the media, how it also enhances that professionalism for the media landscape in Zimbabwe as well, this particular policy.
This policy, in other words, is actually going to protect, empower, capacitate the media industry. When we talk of the media industry, we are talking of the media houses, the media practitioners, because gone are the days when we used to actually have challenges here and there because of the policies that were either there or not there. And now we have something that is going to be used as a tool to actually map the way forward, because we are running with the president's vision of leaving no one and no community behind. In this case, there will actually be areas that are going to be looked into that, of course, for some time have been ignored, but in this case are going to be looked into in terms of actually polishing them in areas of professionalism, remuneration, and also embracing AI. Artificial intelligence is very, very important, because the pieces of legislation or acts that were there were actually not inclusive of the current situation where technology is the thing.
I don't know whether I'm going to take the time to probably allow the Honorable Deputy Minister to maybe take off his Deputy Minister hat and maybe wear his journalist hat and maybe say, we are reporting live from State House.
Yeah.
Honorable Deputy Minister.
You caught me unaware. Lamhlanje silapha ke State House njengoba libona kugcwele abantu beze ukuzothakazelela lokho kwenzakala. Kuyinto ke enhle kithi sonke njengesizwe seZimbabwe. Ngisithi ke abantu asiphakameni ngani ngoba ke wenza wonke umuntu engasalele emuva engachiyo ungakhathalekile ukuthi ngaphi Victoria Falls to Mutare, Baiti Bridge, to Kariba sithi khona na akuhlale kunjalo yimi umphile Marupi ngise State House.
He still has it in him. And of course, rousing applause for the Deputy Minister. We were speaking to him and just speaking to the launch of the Zimbabwe Media and Communications Policy, which is happening here at State House of Bingani.
Yebo sapolo Zimbabwe sisakhona lapha besikhuluma umphathintambo umsekele mphathintambo wezombiko okathi sisebenzisela njalo ema studios pockets lapho okulo Ian Vambe.
Thank you so much, Vengani and Monica, for giving us those interviews as we get to have a picture and an understanding of what exactly is happening. We saw them speaking to the Deputy Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, a broadcaster himself, as you've also seen issues around his ability to speak in so many languages. He rightfully mentioned the issue of us celebrating Culture Month right here in the month of May, and you could really demonstrate that, as you always make sure that this media industry is also playing its role in as far as ensuring that we do get to have more of the local languages promoted across. As a national broadcaster, we always make sure that we do this. Shortly, we'll be crossing over to our Montrose studios to Dorangwe to further have more of these interviews and understand what the media players are saying from all parts of the country and as far as the media policy is concerned. Now, we go straight to Bulawayo. Dora, it is a good morning and it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Ian, and of course, Monica and Vengani in Harare. Monica and Vengani are now at the State House where His Excellency will, of course, officially launch the media policy. And good morning to you. My name is Dorangwe, and right now I'm being joined by Mr. Metuseli Moyo, who is also a media practitioner, who will just help us to understand more, or rather, we just discuss more on the expectations that we have on the media policy that is being launched today. Mr. Moyo, welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Dora.
Media develops, and as it develops, there is need, or it is necessary that it's regulated.
Yes, I think the media has grown in terms of its reach, in terms of its diversity, and in terms of the players, the people that can get involved and operate as media practitioners. That has been possible through the development of technology, which has somehow made the media to be able to replicate and move out of what we knew as the traditional media. So when that happens, you know, it creates some kind of a challenge in terms of the jungle that the media has become, and there's need to regulate, because the policies and the laws that were there were meant to cater for the environment then, for the media then, but now the media has broadened its scope, its reach, and the way it operates, because some of the media is now paperless, the internet-based, and also using other platforms that can be accessed by everyone, really. So the reach of the media has expanded, and so has been the effect, and hence the need to improve the regulation.
Okay, Mr. Moyo, as a media practitioner, as we await the launch, what are your expectations on this policy?
Yes, I expect the policy to speak to the issues of the conduct of the people that we now call media practitioners. You know, it has gone just beyond the idea of a journalist as we knew a journalist in the old days. There are now various forms, various types of journalism and journalists. We expect the media to address and define the media policy, to be able to define, account, and regulate all those players. We also expect the policy to speak to the issues of media viability. You know, the media is very weak right now, because there's so much of us around. But, you know, the economy and other things, and also the plight of the journalists, the regulation and the standardization of the practice of journalism or a media practitioner, because right now it is difficult to even know, you know, who or what is a journalist or a media practitioner.
Yes. Whenever we talk about regulation, there's always probably a fear that there will be difficulties in terms of open dialogue and critical reporting. How do you think it can be laid down so that it doesn't create that climate of fear?
Yes, I think the starting point is that if we believe, and I do believe as a journalist, that the media is an industry. So any industry needs to be regulated. You know, you cannot, if it's an industry, it must be regulated.
Yes.
But the regulation, hopefully, must and will be done in a manner that does not stifle the growth and the activities of the industry. So at the end of the day, there is nothing to fear, really. What we need is to build mutual trust, mutual collaboration. Obviously, if it's a new policy, maybe there will be issues where any stakeholder or any party would believe maybe this needs to be improved. I think this is not cast on stone. With time, it will be, amended here and there to adapt to the environment at the time. Yes. But I believe right now there's been efforts from both the authorities and the media sector itself to improve the relationships. Yes. And we hope to continue in that spirit.
Yes, and so as a nation, we are running under the mantra, leaving no one and no place behind. And I believe when we're talking about that, we're talking about inclusivity. And
yes,
the media policy has to have some sort of that. But how do you think we can involve every person, besides including their language, their geographical location?
Yes, I think the media, like I said, is an industry. And if you leave that to investors in the media to decide who they are going to include and who they are going to exclude, that's when you have other people being left out. But if there's a policy, and that policy must be underpinned by directives that direct the media to ensure that it dovetails into that policy of leaving no place, no one behind. And also there must be enabling instruments and even resources to say the media must go out and include everyone. Because the media is supposed to mirror the society. If other aspects or other cultures, communities and entities are missing from the media, it means that amounts to some kind of injustice. So we need to cater for everyone, and hopefully the policy will make it almost mandatory to say, if you're going to be doing this type of media, you need to at least operate in these languages or in these communities. Otherwise, if you leave it to the media investors themselves, they will choose to go to Harare or Bulawayo or other cities where they will make money and forget about the people in the periphery. And most of the minorities are found in the periphery. So the policy must ensure that indeed no one is left behind and no place is left behind.
Yes. Mr. Moyo, as we started our conversation, you did talk about the many journalists that are there nowadays, and I believe you mainly it's because of the social media platforms that are there. How do you think the policy can regulate social media without over-regulating the digital space?
Yes, I think the social media has had its own positive impact, but the negatives really are that the social media is open to everyone and anyone who can afford the gadget and afford the data and access the platform. And journalists, because of the impact of the social media, they are now migrating from the traditional platforms to the social media platforms. So there's need to really regulate and say, if you are a journalist and you think you're going to be using certain platforms to broadcast or write or reach out to the people, we need to act with a sense of responsibility, a sense of professionalism. We cannot afford to behave like any other social media player. We are professionals. Whatever we do, whatever we give out, we need to regulate ourselves as professionals internally, using the professional and ethical codes that we go through during training. But whenever there are excesses, really, maybe that's when the policy or the law should come in. But the idea should be for journalists to be alive to these things, to be sensitive, to want to, preserve our own integrity as professionals so that we don't reduce ourselves maybe to the levels of an ordinary social media player.
Mm-hmm. And now from the summary that we got from Minister Jen Mswero on the media policy launch, one of the expectations that they have are that they achieve a strong and converged digital economy. How do you think that can be achieved through a media policy?
Yes, I think everything now almost happens digitally. You know, the media itself is now more active in the digital space. And most of the economic activity happens there now. So the media, if it doesn't move fast enough into that space, it will be left behind. So I think the media is doing, they are being cognizant of the situation and they are moving there. So what we need, the media needs to tap into the digital economy, because I think you see most of the advertising now happens online and all. The media needs to go there, and the media needs to be very strong in terms of technology, so that it has got a presence and effect, and it also participates in the broader national economy.
Yes, and then part of the summary also includes the local content promotion. How do you think that one can be achieved? Probably from content creators, producers.
Yes, I think there's been a misconception to say globalization and the global village means the annihilation of local cultures, local content, and local cultural products. I think we need to stand our ground as a nation. We need to make sure we provide a platform for our local artists, for our producers, for our film producers, for our musicians, to be able to have a platform, because at the end of the day, all these are cultural products which are an expression of our culture as a people. And if we do that, you know, we run the risk of being Zimbabweans who are not Zimbabweans at all. You know, we all come from somewhere. We all come from villages, come from provinces, and we come from a nation. And all that must be preserved. And the media is that space which can help us to foster and maintain our cultures.
Mr. Moyo, now talking about the policy being launched is another story. Now let's talk about its implementation and its effectiveness. How can we participate as media practitioners, as Zimbabweans, in its implementation and its full effectiveness in our country?
I think the first step is to acknowledge and accept that the policy is here, and the good intentions of the policy, and also dovetail into a policy. You know, if a national policy has been put in place, there is nothing to benefit or to gain by going against a policy that is supposed to be national, that is supposed to regulate everyone. I think, like someone explained, it's meant to regulate the media is in its totality. So as professionals, you know, we need to say, here is the policy. If there are areas that we think need to be improved, I think the channels are there. We can always engage, and vice versa.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Moyo. We will take it back to Pocket. So for now, we are talking about the media policy launch, which the President, His Excellency, Comrade Idi Mnangagwa, will be launching soon. Mainly, it's meant to defend Zimbabwe's image, sovereignty, and territorial integrity, amongst other factors, of course, which we've also mentioned some of the expectations that we have, and we've had other speakers that came before talking about the media policy, which we believe will change the face of the media landscape in Zimbabwe. But for now, we're taking you back to our Pocket Soul studios, where Ian is on standby. Ian, it's over to you.
As we get to learn and understand more in terms of what the media players are saying, how they're looking forward to the details of this particular policy and how it is going to develop the profession, the country, and ultimately, like you're saying, from that particular theme and what the policy is trying to do, promote a digital economy. Right here in the studio, we're still joined by Director Radio Services of the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, Mr. Albert Cheka, as we get to understand more about this particular policy and the objectives. Now, Director, we've had the conversation from our Montreal studios. Dora was speaking about the importance of promoting digital economy. But part of the reason why we are having a media policy is to protect the country's image, integrity, and territorial integrity. Can you explain how can a media policy push towards protection of the country's image?
Oh, thanks, Ian. I think what the government is trying to do is to run away from creating laws that actually govern the media, because laws have repercussions like being arrested and being sentenced to something. But what they are doing is giving direction. World over, Ian, you know, whether China, Russia, America, I would point to what President Donald Trump is trying to do, saying America first.
Right.
People might differ with him in the way he's implementing it, the American first policy, but it's virtually correct to say America first, America for the Americans. Is correct because that's what he stands for as the president of America. And what this policy is saying is we are Zimbabwean first before we are any of our media companies,
right.
But we stand as Zimbabweans. Would you imagine that maybe we are at war with another country and the local media is actually telling the enemy about our tactics or even that there are food shortages?
Right.
It's totally unacceptable. But in this modern era where the media has changed a lot, you look at the media also building the image of a particular country. You know, these days investments or even the country's GDP or the stock markets can actually tumble, say the stock market, because of a particular story that is not even verified, that is not even concerned about the image of the country, or that is not even concerned about being Zimbabwean first. And what the government is saying is, please be Zimbabwean first. It's a policy. It's up to us as the media to take it, because we are professionals. We know the ethics, we know the way we are supposed to do, but this is a direction, a pointer to say, be Zimbabwean first.
Interesting as you get to explain, Director, the issue of being Zimbabwean first, borrowing again from the mantra that His Excellency so saying that
exactly,
that the media has a role to play in the development of the nation. Now, let's talk about the advent of social media. We cannot ignore that social media is here, and obviously everyone now owns a smartphone with access to a camera, thinks they are a journalist, they can post a story, they can do a podcast. How do we ensure that the media remains professional and plays its role, and there is that separation of social media and traditional media?
Oh yeah, you remember in the late 90s when the former Vice President of the United States, Al Gore, was talking about the internet, saying the super highway. And we are in that period where there is the information revolution. We can safely say this is the information age, right, or the information era. But what it has done, it has actually come to destabilize a lot, especially the traditional media. You see, the print media in some countries and even locally is actually going archaic. And if they don't find ways of survival, they actually become archaic. But what the social media also has done is to bring people who think they are journalists without proper training. How many times have you seen on bus accidents somebody actually taking all the pictures, those gory pictures of somebody headless or something like that? We should never ever be done by a qualified journalist. So it's now a jungle with the trained and untrained journalists all together. But through this policy and what ZMC have been trying to do is to also accredit those called influencers or content creators. They are supposed to be accredited. And one of the points where they were differing with journalists, I remember one of the workshops we took, actually ZMC to task to say, why are you making us the same? We are trained journalists and we know the ethics, we know how things should be done. We should not be taken like another person who just creates a joke or what, and then calls himself or herself a content creator. But what the policy is now trying to do is to say, come, we accredit you. When we accredit you, you should know and actually abide by a code of conduct. So in a way, it's a soft regulation. You are not saying you are not supposed to do this, but there has to be a code of conduct. If you don't abide with that code of conduct, you don't get accredited. So it's a way of trying to bring sanity in the social media jungle that we are in, so that at least people know how to do it, because it's actually bad, Ian, when someone just post things that we are not supposed to see, even children.
Right.
You know, the internet doesn't forget. We know that. You saw a child in a very sorry state, and it's posted, it goes viral. And now, in a way, they are going to be regulated without declaring war on them.
Right. We are going to be talking about the available punitive measures and what you think should be done, especially looking at those who will be doing, like the examples you're giving, posting pictures of an accident scene. Surely a trained media practitioner should not be doing that. But of course, we spoke to various media practitioners in terms of their thoughts in as far as this particular media policy is concerned. Now, let's get to hear some of thoughts that are offered those practitioners that we spoke to.
Yeah, I think it is coming at a critical time because for the umpteenth time, the media policies were housed in different sectors: telecommunications, print, broadcast. So the media did not have a policy, so to speak, ever since our media started to operate in this country in 1890. So I think credit goes to the minister for gathering the courage to have a comprehensive policy that seeks to address contemporary challenges and also contemporary progresses expected of a media industry in the post-digital world. But basically all policies of media and communication, they seek to address three things. You talk about freedom of information. This is with regards to communication, with regards to content, with regards to access, with regards to sharing. Media policy should also address issues of plurality with regards to languages that are used, with regards to ownership of the media. It must not be concentrated in the hands of a few, because when the media is concentrated in the hands of a few, it means it becomes an exclusive media. Then there are also issues to do with privacy. What happens when media abuses a person or an institution? These are the three things that we seek to foresee in this policy, especially with regards to how best an institution at a government level should tame the jungle in the social media, because the social media, if untamed, it's also a potential havoc, it's a potential pandemic. But otherwise, development of a media policy is welcome, and it remains a process because media evolves every day, and so should be the policy. It must not be stuck. It should seek to address the contemporary. Any developmental trajectory starts with local, be it manufacturing, be it issues of service, be it issues of content, but it should go beyond just having a 75% local content, but issues of copyright, issues of patenting. How do you monetize the 75%? Because the danger is we may slide back to the era of urban grooves. You just find some money to record in the studio and you go in the studio, but how do you monetize the skill? How do you monetize the talent? For us, for me, I think that's what matters. 75% is welcome, but how do you convert the 75% into a viable industry which people live on, as well as an industry which also remits tax? Those are the things that should be addressed by the 75%. Also with regards to quality, it's one thing to have 75%, but it's another to then also harness issues of quality. How are we going to also ensure quality out of our 75%? Otherwise, we must even aspire to be 100%. Why not? For as long as issues of quality are guaranteed, issues of monetization, revenue generation from the exclusive 75 or even 100%. The money that the motorists are going to remit by way of taxation of our ZBC licenses, radio licenses, I think should be commensurate to what motorists should then get. For most of the time, ZBC remained an underfunded entity to meet the expectations of the people, the expectations of listeners and of their audiences. But with this guaranteed revenue supply, I think we also expect change, positive transformation, progress, in as much as issues of content and issues of programming are concerned from the national broadcaster. Otherwise, it is a progressive move in terms of seeking ways to generate revenue, but also bearing the aspect of issues of economic challenges. I think now that it's mandatory, I think a certain price can be reached, which is affordable, which is also attractive, with regards to having no one having the appetite to violate. So it is very progressive, and we look forward to a revamped ZBC now that there is a pool of revenue that can be put to good use courtesy of licensing.
Dr. Alexander Rusero, the media expert, commenting and saying what really are important issues in as far as the media policy is concerned, and also raising critical issues on the monetization of the 75% local content. And now, as we are seeing on our screens, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, is arriving at the State House, where he is of course expected to launch the media policy. Historical day for the country, for all the media practitioners, for all the sectors as the media, who plays a key role of course in ensuring that the country constantly develops on the right trajectory. The correct narrative is shared out there, and of course playing the role of educating, entertaining, as well as informing the nation, as His Excellency right there is set to launch the historic media policy right here in Zimbabwe. And of course, we'll be crossing over to our team shortly to follow proceedings. And now let's get straight to State House and follow the proceedings.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We can take our seats. It's a very good morning to you all, and welcome to the official launch of the media policy in Zimbabwe. Allow me, Your Excellency, at this point in time to call upon my very good engineer, Kapuma, to come and give us a word of prayer.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, all protocol observed. Let us bow our heads in prayer. Almighty God, source of all wisdom and light, we gather today with hearts full of hope and purpose for the launch of the national media policy. We acknowledge your divine presence and seek your guidance in this pivotal moment of our beloved nation, Zimbabwe. We pray for your abundant wisdom to rest upon our esteemed guest of honor, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, and all leaders involved in the promulgation of this vital policy. As it is written in Proverbs 8, verse 15 to 16, by me, I quote, by me kings reign, rulers issue decrees, and that they are just by me, princes govern, and all nobles rule the earth. Lord, we recognize the profound power of information and communication in shaping our society. We pray that this media policy will be a beacon of truth, fostering a landscape where, as in John 8:32 declares, you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. May it promote responsible, ethical, diverse voices, ensuring that every citizen is informed, empowered, and engaged in the national discourse. Bless the objectives of this policy to truly enhance our national development and elevate the standard of living of all. May it be a public, practical manifestation of our government's mantra, leaving no one and no place behind, ensuring that even the most remote corners of the land are reached by the reliable and relevant information. For indeed, a country is built by its citizens, and an informed citizenry is the cornerstone of a prosperous and united nation. We ask for your divine blessing upon our president, granting him strength, health, continued vision to lead the nation forward. Bless Zimbabwe, O Lord, protect its people, unite its diverse communities, and guide us in building a nation founded on peace, progress, and prosperity. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Engineer. We can give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Shall I say good morning once again? How are you feeling today? Just wave if you're fine. There we go. That's much better. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, the National Chairman of our ruling party, ZANU-PF, the Minister of Defense, Honorable OCZ Muchinguri Kashiri, good morning. Allow me also to recognize the presence, ladies and gentlemen, of the Chief Secretary of the President and Cabinet, Dr. Martin Rushwaya, the Chairman of the Service Commission, the Central Committee members and the Polity Bureau members. Allow me also, ladies and gentlemen, to recognize the presence of Cabinet Ministers who are here present. Please feel welcome, Honorables, as well as the members of Parliament that are here with us. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, also to recognize the secretaries of commissions and the secretaries for ministries who are here present with us this morning. The senior government officials who are here present, board chairmen of the various state enterprises who are here present. Allow me also, ladies and gentlemen, to recognize the important members of the Fourth Estate who we are gathered here for. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My job today, ladies and gentlemen, is to move with you along with this program. I do have a co-host today. He is the Chief Director in the Ministry of Information. He will be coming shortly to take us through the program as well. But we are excited, Your Excellency, today as we are gathered here for this groundbreaking experience, something that is absolutely amazing for the media sector in the country, a policy that we hope will galvanize the country's narrative and create the best of brand Zimbabwe. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to call upon Dr. Gandari to help me to go through the program.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies, Chief Kote. His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, allow me to ride on the protocols that my co-director has already explained. My task this morning is to give a little story around how we got to where we are, this media policy. This media policy is an exercise that started a year ago. It brought together the academia, it brought together members from the Ministry of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services. It also brought together people from the civic society. Indeed, this policy is a response to the request by civic society, who were asking us questions around how do we develop policies within media houses without government policy. They were asking for direction from the government. And as a result, this was a response. Those from the academia were asking us, how do we teach media policy to our students if our own government has not given us direction? And therefore, it took hard work, it took a lot of effort to get to where we are. But in the ministry, just to share, when we were writing this policy, it was a back and forth process and not always smooth. Sometimes when the draft was given to us as the technocrats, we would change certain portions and the minister would not be pleased. He would phone me, Kwanziwe Gandari, wakavoterwa nani iwe, simba rokuchinja zvinizvi wari wana kupi. Ini chete na David wangu ndisi takabva kuvanhu ndisi tine simba rokuchinja. Iwe haungochinja zvinhu. Dzorera. Totodzorera zvinhu zveshe. But at the end of the process, it was sweet, good labor. And at this point, we were also benefiting from his experience. As you may know, he worked on a number of policies before when he was Minister of ICT and in other engagements. So he worked on the policy of ICT, the 2022, he worked on the national e-learning strategy, he worked on the national enterprise architecture. So all that experience became very helpful when we were drafting this policy. So it took the pain away from us. At this point, I would like to invite the Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services to take us to the next program. The Minister needs no introduction. He is an intellectual. He is a strategist. He has won his constituency twice. So it gives me an idea that he is a good strategist. So, Minister Wagavotel, Mochu, ina good Wagavotel and Ochiba. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Permanent Secretary, Comrade Jonathan Gandari. Thank you also to the Director of Ceremonies, Chief Koti. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, and also SADC Chairman, President E.D. Mnangagwa, Honorable Vice Presidents in absentia, the National Chairman of the ruling party ZANU-PF and Minister of Defense, Comrade OCZ Muchinguri Kashiri, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, the Chief Secretary to the President and Cabinet, the Chairman of the Public Service Commission, Central Committee members, secretaries in various ministries, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, also honorable members of Parliament, including the chairman of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee here present. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, it is with great pleasure that I have also been given an opportunity to give remarks at this important event, which is the launch of the first integrated Zimbabwe media policy. Your Excellency, the President, Dr. Edim Mnangagwa, the launch of the Zimbabwe media policy here in Harare today is in fulfillment of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, and in particular, Section 61 and Section 62 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which relates and speaks to the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, and the freedom of the media. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, for us as a government to come up with this policy, it is because of the leadership that was provided by His Excellency the President, Dr. Edim Mnangagwa. Your Excellency, you have taught us that leadership is about providing and giving opportunity to other people. And the servant leadership model in terms of parameters, in terms of achievements, in terms of the practical implementation of policies to success, this is what has been the hallmark in terms of the new dispensation. Through your leadership and wise counsel, we've managed to grow our economy. We've managed to ensure that the media sector informs the nation, educates the nation, raises awareness on critical issues, either negative or positive. But also, this policy document has got clear objectives, principles, and pillars which relate to human capital development, the transition from analog to digital, local content generation, heritage-based broadcasting, which also includes the data collection, the broadcasting, the writing in all the 16 languages in terms of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. But at the same time, it also speaks to the sustainability of the media sector, and at the same time, the ethics, the governance part, the role of the Zimbabwe Media Commission as a Chapter 12 institution. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this policy speaks to the image of our country, the digital footprints, the responsibility that each and every Zimbabwean, as espoused by His Excellency the President, that nyika inovakwa nevenhu vayo, that each and every Zimbabwean has a role to defend, to advance, to protect the image of our country, that each and every Zimbabwean has a collective responsibility to contribute towards Vision 2030. With these few remarks, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank each and every member within the media fraternity for the contributions, each and every Zimbabwean, either from the academia or the civil society, from every media house, as we utilized a stakeholders approach for us to come up with this good media policy under the leadership of His Excellency the President, Dr. Edim Mnangagwa. Your Excellency, I also want us to elaborate further in terms of this policy position. This policy position, because of the new threat which this policy also deals with in terms of social media imperialism, in terms of our data and digital sovereignty, as we journey towards an informed and empowered upper middle income society. For a knowledgeable, educated and informed society is very key for us to be able to achieve Vision 2030. I thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, before I take to my seat, I've been given the most difficult task, but also the most easiest task, to introduce His Excellency the President, Dr. Edim Mnangagwa. But how do you introduce a president who has achieved so much in a short space of time? From the new Robert Gabriel Mugabe International Airport, the food security and nutrition security that has been achieved, the Mashingo Bight Bridge Road, the new Parliament building, the capacity in terms of food security to be able to feed the nation, even though we had faced one of the worst droughts in the past 4 decades. The capacity to renew and rebuild the entirety of the country. The acceleration in terms of industrial production, the growth of the mining sector from $2.7 billion to more than $15 billion. The transformation of agriculture from less than $3 billion to more than $12 billion. The finalization in terms of the land reform program and the highest records in terms of tobacco and maize production in our country. The wheat food sufficiency that we have achieved under your leadership, Your Excellency. The national e-learning strategy. The licensing framework that has allowed satellite players to be able to work together with the government of Zimbabwe in order to achieve ubiquity in our country. The repeal of IPA, which was considered by members of the Fourth Estate as draconian, but also the implementation and development of the Freedom of Information Act, the Zimbabwe Media Commission Act, and currently the Media Practitioners Bill, which is underway. The Broadcasting Services Amendments that seek to ensure that we both achieve technological and media sovereignty in our country. These are some of the achievements under the leadership of His Excellency, the President, Dr. Edim Mnangagwa. The capacity to allow media practitioners to move into the central bank, to have an opportunity to see the gold reserves, and also have an opportunity even to touch the gold reserves. That gives us direction in terms of transparency, that we are a government of the people, for the people, by the people. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, and also the Chairman of SADC, who has redefined Zimbabwe as the conical tower in terms of international relations, to give his remarks. Your Excellency.
Pray, be seated. In absentia, well, first of all, Director of Ceremonies, in absentia, the two Vice Presidents, General Chwenga and Colonel Retired Mohadi, our National Chairman of ZANU-PF, and the Minister of Defense, Honorable Hosizet Mchinguri Kashiri, Minister of State for Harare Metropolitan Province, Honorable Charles Tabengwa, Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, Honorable Dr. Msuere, the Chief Secretary to the President and Cabinet, Dr. Shwaya, senior government officials, distinguished guests who are here, comrades and friends. I am honored to officiate at this occasion, marking the launch of the Zimbabwe media policy. This policy comes at a time when both the global and local media ecosystems are witnessing an unprecedented transformation ushered by emerging technologies. Additionally, artificial intelligence is undoubtedly revolutionizing all aspects of our social and economic sectors, with the media industry being no exception. Artificial intelligence has reshaped information gathering, analysis, production, and dissemination. These and other related innovations in science and technology have collectively increased the speed, interactivity, and reach of journalism, while also presenting new opportunities and challenges. These relate to accuracy, ethics, and information overload, among others. The extensive and multi-pronged implications of these developments, especially on the global south, Africa, and us in Zimbabwe, have the danger of challenging our respective national sovereignty and our democracy. Through the promulgation of the national media policy we are launching today, my government is strengthening and guaranteeing that our citizens will have access to factual, verified, accurate, and reliable information. These are all important ingredients to accelerate our country's national development agenda. Further, our philosophy, nyika inovakwa, igotongwa, igonamatirwa, nevene vayo, demands that we deploy information in our reach in the context of the unique, rich history, culture, and vision of our beloved motherland, Zimbabwe. Through this policy, my government seeks to ensure protection against the significant, ever-looming threats to facts, ethics, diversity, and cultural plurality by the global tech infrastructure. Hence, our regulatory efforts, content and platform accountability, as well as support for Zimbabwe's independent content ecosystem will be enhanced. Addressing issues related to market dominance, privacy, misinformation, disinformation, and user rights are areas that are encapsulated in this policy. In this regard, there must be ripple benefits from regulating big tech services, including through taxation and fair payment. digital taxes and fair revenue sharing from all media players should contribute to local economies and content creators. The need and importance of protecting users from exploitative practices and promoting digital literacy so that users safely navigate online environments cannot be overemphasized. It is, however, pleasing to note that the formulation and subsequent launch of the media policy is in keeping with sections 61 and 62 of our national constitution, which sets out fundamental principles guiding our media practitioners in the sector and access to information. My dear distinguished guests and gentlemen and comrades, my government regards both our public and private media as strategic cogs towards achieving our national development aspirations and Vision 2030. It is my expectation that the sector functions as the symbolic eye and the mirror of society, providing an honest and grounded reflection of our realities. This role should never be taken lightly. As the media industry and the media practitioners informs, scrutinizes, and influences socio-economic developments for the betterment of our country, you must be vigilant. Your responsible operations should also foster an informed, engaged, constitutional and democratic Zimbabwe. The past trends where media practitioners competed for prominence on the degree to which they demonized our country has no place in Zimbabwe we fought for. We are building the Zimbabwe we all want, including the media. The role of the media towards mobilizing resources, fostering innovation, and creating an environment conducive for investors to set up businesses as we march forward towards an upper middle income economy is applauded. However, I challenge the media fraternity, along with other stakeholders, to scale up our ongoing quest to shape a positive image about our beloved motherland, Zimbabwe. We have no other but the Zimbabwe in our hands today. On their part, citizens must use various media platforms to accelerate progress, as well as galvanize the nation towards production and productivity across all sectors, as well as inclusive growth and the attainment of our national development goals. No one and no place must be left behind in our motherland. Comrades, under my leadership, the media will continue to be our cornerstone for promoting unity, peace, social cohesion, harmony, and the love for our country. Anything besides this, Chibakera Mzizo. The media policy we are launching is an important cog that must help realize an intricate balance between freedom of expression and the need for content and the platform accountability. We are a nation strongly rooted in our value systems, our dignity and our integrity. These cardinal values must result in ethical journalism. We must write to show we are ourselves, never to please those who are not ourselves. Content that harms our country and the fellow citizens has no space in our constitutional democracy under my watch. The law and justice system will take its course on all those who infringe on the rights of others on media platforms. The values of Ubuntu, UNU, must always inspire us to balance our individual and collective rights. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, to date, my government continues to implement several development programs and projects to consolidate the gains of democratizing the media space and environment. 14 community radio stations have been licensed, which have proved crucial in revitalizing the indigenous languages and cultures of our great motherland, Zimbabwe. By sharing traditional knowledge and fostering community participation, our community radio stations are helping to preserve and to promote our rich heritage and identity. Thank you. Capacity building programs to guarantee the efficacy of these and other stations will be supported by my administration. It is commendable that the modernization of Zim papers is now at an advanced stage. The project aims to make Zim papers more competitive in the digital age, to improve news delivery, speed, and meet the ever-evolving needs of the audience, ourselves. Under the second phase of the Zimbabwe Digital Program, the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation studios in Bulawayo at Montrose have been digitalized. Funds have also been set aside to develop content creation hubs, which will result in modern media organizations and empower our creatives to produce diverse, high-quality content for a competitive local media industry. My fellow countrymen and women, we are the custodians of our own stories and narratives. For far too long, our narrative has been deconstructed, distorted, and misrepresented. As we implement the media policy, let us reclaim and correct this anomaly. A truthful, coherent, and a positive story of Zimbabwe will consolidate our national peace, our unity, and will accelerate our development. The time has come for the world to hear the authentic story of who we are and what we stand for. From our own eyes, from our own mouths, and from our own media, and the people of our own motherland. The Zimbabwean story is one of hard work, resilience amid adversity, such as the illegal sanctions and the climate change. It is a narrative of the people's victory for our independence, our sovereignty, as well, exposing and shaming our country's detractors. The true and undiluted Zimbabwean story is about us, the people, who are masters of our own destiny. The media must influence Zimbabwe's national brand and strategic image in a manner that reflects these core characteristics. Further, I challenge our media to be also aware of the role it plays in advancing our national interests within the Committee of Nations through purposeful and focused engagements guided by our foreign policy. I call upon our content creators and all the stakeholders in the sector to help create and showcase our natural and cultural treasures as Zimbabweans. Riding on modern technologies as well as leveraging digital platforms, I urge you to craft appealing messages and imagery that attracts both local and foreign capital, attracting investments and tourism, among other socio-economic benefits for motherland. Let us therefore move forward with determination and unity, empowering our media industry to be a shining beacon for inclusivity and national pride that advances our national interests and celebrates being Zimbabwean. In conclusion, I reiterate that a responsible, modern, and accountable media is vital for a vibrant constitutional democracy, for national building, and the promotion of people-centered development. Through this Zimbabwe media policy, we have taken a bold decision to ensure that the sector remains a source of enlightenment, empowerment, progress, unity, and the sustainable of development of our motherland, Zimbabwe. With these remarks, it is now my singular honor and privilege to declare the Zimbabwe media policy officially launched. God bless you all. God bless Zimbabwe.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Zimbabwe media policy has been officially launched by His Excellency Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for this groundbreaking launch of this policy. And I'm sure colleagues from the media who are here present are very happy. As much as we are, Minister, we're very, very much thankful. I think what is critical also that the Excellency pointed out is the issue of us going out there and loving ourselves fully. And the media can only drive us towards that particular direction. Ngati safambe tichizishoropodza ukuhamba sizithuka phakathi kwabantu akulunganga. Ngasisebenzise nini omaphephandaba laba lababhala izindaba abangani bami laba engihamba labo ukuthi basincedise. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time in our program, I would like to call upon the Honorable Minister to come through and help us in thanking our guest of honor for launching this policy for us. Your Excellency, we thank you so much for making time out of your busy schedule today to be with us. I think I'll call upon Gandari to help us also to narrate the presence that we're giving you today, our appreciation from the media sector in the country, led by the Honorable Minister, Dr. Jenfan Muswere.
Thank you. We have two gifts that we are giving this morning. The first one is that artwork which shows the high-impact projects of the Second Republic. So all of them are in there, and of course, the title is Towards Vision 2030. So we seek to highlight the projects that are part of that process. But we have another gift.
This, Your Excellency, these are some of your major signature projects. The first one is your chairmanship as chairman of SADC. This redefined Zimbabwe as the paragon in terms of international relations, repositioned Zimbabwe to its correct position. Your achievements in terms of the engagement and re-engagement strategy, in terms of health services, some of the dividends in terms of economic diplomacy, including the Belarusian tractor facility that has supported the growth of the agricultural sector, the modernization of the Robert Gabriel Mugabe International Airport as part of the infrastructure, the Beitbridge border post, the modernization. This is part of the production of ICT gadgets at the Zitco factory, and here Matura at the Grain Marketing Board, as we have achieved food and nutrition security, the storage facilities that we are building across the country in order to support agricultural activities. This is the Trabablas interchange, one of your signature projects which you commissioned this week, Your Excellency. This is the Parliament, new Parliament building. These are just some of the thousands of projects that we've achieved, Your Excellency. The second one is about this Zim Digital Phase 2 program.
We are privileged this morning to hand over 100 set-top boxes that His Excellency can select who to give. On that set-top box, you will have ZTN, Kiona, you will have ZBC, and all the radio stations. The set-top box comes with an outdoor antenna, so it's fix and supply.
So the set-top box, I think Wagandari was explaining earlier on, Your Excellency, that chi decoder chinongobayirirwa pa television choconnectwa tobva taona machannels ese ari muno muZimbabwe. Vazhinji vanoziva DSTV yatinozoshandisa kuona bhora riri kune dzimwe nyika. Tenge takuriona ipapo nekuti machannels acho anenge achibata neipapo. Saka mapiwa, you said 100, Honorable Minister, yeah? Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Another round of applause for the guest of honor and the Honorable Minister as we launch this beautiful policy that guides the media. At this point in time, Your Excellency, if you'd allow me to call upon the Honorable Deputy Minister in the Ministry of Information as well to come through and give us some remarks, just to thank you, Your Excellency, and everybody else who has attended this function today.
Honorable Deputy Minister, we would like to invite you to come and offer the vote of thanks. But just to say to the audience, we have the minister is a Nyati, the deputy minister is a Nyati. So you can imagine how life is in the ministry with the two Nyatis, two buffaloes in the mix.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies. His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Comrade Dr. Idi Mnangagwa, the two Vice Presidents in absentia, the Minister of Defense and ZANU-PF National Chairman, Comrade OCZ Muchinguri Kashiri, Minister of State and Devolution, Harare Metropolitan, Comrade Charles Tawengwa, the Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, Vanyati, Chief Secretary, Dr. M. Rishaya, Honorable Ministers, here present, Politburo and Central Committee members, here present, representatives of the government, Chairperson of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Media Information and Broadcasting, Honorable Mateo, and the honorable members that sit in your committee, and all the honorable ministers, MPs who are here present, members of media fraternity, representatives from the creative sector, other dignitaries here present, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great honor and humility that I extend my profound gratitude to His Excellency, President Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, for presiding over this momentous event and for your steadfast leadership and vision in creating an enabling environment that enhances the growth and development of the media sector in Zimbabwe. Your Excellency, the media policy that you launched today stands as a testament to your recognition of the crucial role that a free, diverse, inclusive, and vibrant media play in nation building and development. The media space in Zimbabwe has been redefined to promote professionalism, innovation, inclusivity, allowing media houses and practitioners to thrive in an environment that respects freedom of expression and the rule of law. I would like to commend the Ministry of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, led by Honorable Dr. James Swere, and the team at the Ministry for working tirelessly to bring this policy to life. Your dedication to ensuring that the media sector is well regulated and responsive to the evolving needs of the media landscape is highly appreciated. I also acknowledge the invaluable contributions of all stakeholders, civil society, and development partners who played a role in shaping this policy. To the media fraternity, we appreciate your continuous efforts in informing, educating, and uniting the nation. This policy will go a long way in protecting journalistic integrity and professionalism. As a ministry, we'll continue to play our part in implementing this policy effectively to foster a media industry that empowers and serves the interests of our nation and its people in line with your visionary call. Nyika inovakwa nevene vayo. Ilizwe lakhiwa ngabanikazi balo. Lifatsi libahiwa kibenyi balona. Shango likofatiwa ngabene balo. Tiro riakhiwa hivinyi barona. Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you all. Tatenda, siyabonga, realeboa, twarumba, nikensile, reaboka, rekolibua, nda.
Danda bonare. So I was trying to count, Your Excellency. He hit 8 languages straight. And he translated that very big statement. Nyika inovakwa nevenevayo. Asi, Your Excellency, nindiri muvenda. Paazo taura kuti shango lifatiwa ngabane balo. Andaita kunzwa manyemwe. Daita kufara, Your Excellency. We'd like to thank you, sir, very much for making time to be with us. But before we let you take your leave, Your Excellency, allow me also just to inform you that journalism is a very, very critical part of our lives. And I think, especially in the Second Republic, we've seen you appointing young men and women into positions of authority to try and run this country and do the best for this beautiful country. I think we had those awards that you hold here in this beautiful yard where you honor those who have performed well, who have done well throughout the year, particularly the ministers. I can see Honorable Machakaire smiling there. It's coming, sir. This year, I think my youth are no shtora. So there's one such young man, sir, who has been a journalist. He is a chairman in one of the state entities, and he has done very well. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. George Manyaya, he was a journalist, Your Excellency. Taito nyora naye kuma newsroom. Kwa kutosimuka, kwa kutoa chairman, kwa kutonza iwa highest performing state enterprise. Wakoma. Shinongo wani kwa Zimbabwe yakanaka ishi. Your Excellency, we will like to allow you to take your leave if you must, but we are very, very much grateful. Tinotenda siyabonga twalumba loko.
And officially launched as Zimbabwe's media and communications policy. And this launched by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. Mnangagwa. And this media policy is set to promote and strengthen media sovereignty, as well as promote unity, peace, as well as that sustainability in the media landscape. Lucy, this media policy is for us as media and also for the nation of Zimbabwe. I have to say congratulations to you as well.
Thank you very much. Tinotenda muri Zimbabwe ndinovimba kuti aiwa magara nesu mukanzwa mashoko akakosha kubva kumutungamiri wenyika lizwileke amazwi aqhakathekileyo asuke wona kumongameli welizwe ekhuluma aphezu kwalomthetho omusha okhangelane ngezokuhanjiswa kwezindaba ke ukuthi izindaba intatheli izindaba yithi ke sifanele sikhokhele endabeni ezifana lokwakhiwa kwelizwe, indaba ezifana lokukhuluma iqiniso aphezu kwelizwe leZimbabwe. Mbomphuli Zimbabwe mbuzigezwa kuchitika kathuli okuno ku State House musoli wanyika Comrade Mnangagwa mphuva thula kabi imajwi alemekeka imajwi alangene akujulwa zilimo mulawo athala amulawo nguyoyo iwa media policy ya muZimbabwe ikuti zonse zigende kabotu zvese zvifambe nenzira yakanaka mwanika.
Absolutely. And it's also about strengthening and promotion of innovation. I know we are in an ever-evolving media landscape, and we're seeing more tools that are being applied in the media landscape to equip our media practitioners. But it's also that responsibility on the part of these journalists, like myself, like yourself, who are supposed to ensure that even in our reportage, we are objective, we are responsible, and we're also promoting brand Zimbabwe. We're promoting cultural heritage. We're promoting the values as enunciated by His Excellency even in his speech.
Ngaga majingi bazwa kwamba kaphathi Monica kuti ma journalist vasimutola twambo intatheli izindaba isusu vatori venawo tisi tinofanira kunge tiri pamberi pakuona kuti mashoko atinotaura haasi kuzodestroya nyika yeZimbabwe. Mashoko atinotaura ane kuvaka, ane kusimudzira nyika yeZimbabwe hunhu hwedu. Tisu vanani majournalist ndivoka vanofamba pamberi kusimudzira mashoko akadaro anoratidza kuti nyika yeZimbabwe inyika yeZimbabwe pakai nepapi chaipo.
Absolutely. And we also understand that with this media policy, it is also about that access to information, that access to heritage-based information for the public, the general populace of Zimbabwe. And we also just want to understand and also get a sense from the stakeholders who were part of this launch and also who were part of this whole process. And it is my honor to welcome Mr. Mnyaradzi Wengwere. He is not new to the media landscape, but he's also a technocrat. He's an industry expert, and we also say welcome the media launch itself.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about your review in terms of what His Excellency the President had to state in his speech, and obviously with the launch of this media policy itself.
I think for me what I got is that the digital transformation with AI, and there's a serious disruption, and the challenge for Zimbabwe is to tell a story given all that is happening and the dominance of other global players. And sometimes because the world is so big and there's so much money, your voice can then become so little and so distorted. And I think so this media policy comes in to shape how we can tell our story, how we can compete, as well as to support, including with resources, the emerging media industry, including our content creators.
Speaking about the content creators, we've seen the media integrate new forms of media, but also the issue of ethics also coming into play, the issue of professionalism. How would this policy of this nature also regulate and then also enhance that professionalism?
I think what it does is that it says, even though you have plurality and you have multiple voices, but the issue of objectivity, issue of truth, factuality must never be lost
because you have so many citizen journalists now who can use any gadgets. Now anyone can tell a story. From Kwaduku Shavani, you can tell a story. But the fact that you can tell a story does not mean you should tell a wrong story. You should lie. Yeah.
Misinformation, disinformation, fake news, the rise of it. And it has become pretty much rampant. And while there is that freedom of expression, there is the dangers that are posed by these ills. How do we ensure that we strengthen, even through policies such as this, to actually curb the misinformation? Because we're seeing certain quarters, social media applying that kind of route.
You know, your freedom to swing your hand ends where your nose begins. So no one ever has the right to get someone's nose to bleed, including through the use of information. Yes, we call it information, but we must understand that information is also a tool that can hurt. It can negatively affect people's credibility in society. It can harm reputations of country, reputations of businesses and the like. So I think that media policy gets back to say the fundamentals of truth, objectivity, professionalism are still important. So again, this is a reminder that with all the proliferation of voices, the truth must never be denied.
Maybe in 30 seconds, brand Zimbabwe and telling the Zimbabwean story. How do we shape that?
I think that's the point, isn't it? They say that when you say the good story about yourself, you then know that what you produce, what I eat in Zimbabwe, a lot of what the president was saying was that everything about information is also aligned to Vision 2030, isn't it? To be developed upper middle income society. So, and the media is not a forgotten part, it's part of it.
Well, Ininewe Tinebasa, but of course, leaving no one and no place behind. Speaking to Mr. Mnyaradzi Wengwere, as we were also taking stock of his thoughts after the official launch of the Zimbabwe Media and Communications Policy by His Excellency. And this is intending to ensure that we strengthen the sovereignty of Zimbabwe and also pushing for brand Zimbabwe, pushing the narrative and telling the Zimbabwean stories as they should. But responsibility, Lucy, is critical.
Mbobo mphuli Zimbabwe ngatulangide ukuthi zonke zigenda kabotu konke kuhambe kuhle zvose zvafamba mune zvakanaka ka apa kulonchwa ka Zimbabwe media policy takatarisira kuti tichasumudzira iwewe neni kubva pano tichishanda basa racho ka rekutungamira kuti mutemo uyu utibatsire mukushanda nenzira yakanaka sinceda kale mina lawe sisebenza ke ngendlela efanele silandela ke imithetho singabi ngesisayephula imithetho. The president vataura zvakare pamusoro pe-social media kuti zviriko zvimwe zvekuti vanhu vanenge vachingoita zvavari kuita asi nemutemo uyu zarurwa nhasi takatarisira kuti zvichafamba mune zvakanaka. Tiri maZimbabweans takatarisa kuti zvatinobuditsa pamedia zvinhu zvakaita sei, into esizifaka kumedia izinto eziyakhayo izinto ezibulala iZimbabwe.
Well, we came, we saw, and it was delivered. Officially launched the Zimbabwe Media and Communications Policy, and it is about promoting that media excellence, that media diversity for national development. After all, it is us who can build brand Zimbabwe, and we need to tell the narrative as it should be. This has been the live broadcast from us at State House. As we say, congratulations even to the media space. You now have your media policy. Lucy, it's back to the studio.
Tinatenda muri yeZimbabwe regaiti kudzosere kuma studios edu Pockets Hill.
Thank you so much, Lucy and Monica, for giving us proceedings as they were happening as we witnessed the historic day in Zimbabwe, especially for the media fraternity, as we witnessed the launch of the media policy by His Excellency the President Dr. Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, who also spoke largely in terms of what the policy is trying to achieve, how the media industry has evolved. We are going to be dissecting all those takeaways from the speech that was delivered by His Excellency. But before we do that, remember we did say earlier on that we spoke to various media experts in terms of their expectations in as far as ensuring that their comments about this particular policy are concerned. And now let's get to hear what some of these media experts were saying.
It comes at a very, very, very pivotal time when media in Zimbabwe is facing a lot of challenges. In the media policy, my expectation as a representative of editors is the issue of sustainability. Media organizations are collapsing because they are not able to sustain themselves. So it is my expectation that in the police there are a number of issues that deal with sustainability. We want media houses to be sustainable, to be able to pay living wages. Right now, our journalists are earning peanuts. They don't have cars. They don't have laptops and other gadgets that assist them to do their job. We expect them to have the necessary gadgets, the latest, top-notch gadgets to make them do the job. And it comes at a time when we have artificial intelligence, which is threatening to take jobs away from journalists. Artificial intelligence is an idea whose time has come. It cannot be ignored, but it can only be a complementary to the practice of journalism. Journalism needs a human face. For it to have a human face, it needs to be empowered. The humans, you guys at ZBC, for instance, need to be empowered by having the top-notch gadgets so that you complement AI. And then there's the issue of welfare of journalists. I want the policy, the media policy, to speak around the issues of welfare of journalists. I saw Zim Papers is now going into delivery of letters, delivery of parcels. It's an innovation, but for me it's not what I want for the welfare of journalists and sustainability of the media. What I want, this policy should be very, very clear about how do we get our journalism to be sustainable. If you look at our neighbors, South Africa, all government departments are mandated to advertise in all media, private and public. That's why they are sustainable. Yeah. But having said that, the policy should also allow our media to be innovative, independent, professional. Yeah.
Voices of various media experts as they talk about what they think the media policy should really be addressing. And of course, the media policy has been launched by His Excellency. And now we are going back to our Montrose studios where Dora is on standby to have more discussions as we further talk about this particular policy. Dora, it's back to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Ian. And the media fraternity has been redefined, and it's a challenge for us as media practitioners to be, as His Excellency said, that we are the eye and the mirror of the country. In other words, what we report is what we reflect. And as such, he encouraged us to quest, to shape a positive image about Zimbabwe. And this is a challenge for us as media practitioners to make sure that we rebrand Zimbabwe. I still have in studio Mr. Moyo, and Mr. Moyo, one of the things that touched me was that His Excellency said for a long time the information that we have been getting has been distorted and misrepresented about our country. And this time around, we're now reclaiming and correcting the anomaly.
Yes, I think as media practitioners, we have been challenged really to use these words. He said we must scale up. We need to do more in order to spruce up and promote the image of the country. I think we need to agree that at some point the image of Zimbabwe was battered, and most of it was coming from the media. And we have seen in the last 20 to 25 years, at the end of the day, it has brought all the negative effects on the country and the people of Zimbabwe. Maybe this is a chance, this is yet another reminder that maybe we need to continue turning the pages, and we, as the media, we are just as good as the ambassadors of the country, because we create the impression about our own country, and we must never confuse our country with our politics or with persons. Our country remains our country.
True. And he also spoke about the democratization of the media space, and that we are already broadcasting in 14 languages in Zimbabwe. What's your encouragement to the citizens out there who feel their languages are minor? Because sometimes we call these people and they don't come forward. What's your encouragement?
I think I would like to encourage everyone, to... I don't like the term that anyone is a minority, because everyone in their families, in their communities, they're a complete community, and they deserve to be catered for in their own locality. It is a very good development that we've got a number of radio stations that broadcast in these languages. The only thing that you can do is to capacitate them so that they grow, they become stronger, and they even reach out outside their own communities. Because if you are not represented in the media, it is as if you don't exist. So now that they are represented in the media, it shows that they're existing and they need to exist more.
And then to the content creators, because he did also mention the content creators. I remember in our first conversation, we spoke about, yes, the policy being launched, but it being implemented, and what role we can play as media practitioners, the citizens, and content creators. What's your take on all that?
I think, we were told, this has been in all stakeholders' consultative process leading up to this policy. So it means now even the content creators, because there's no doubt now where they belong. They all belong to this big sector, which is called the media sector. And there will be policies that will be put in place to ensure that whatever protections that are there are issues of ethics, issues of standards. It cannot be an all open area where people do as they please. In as much as we're looking for opportunities, we're looking for influence, we're looking for money, we must do it responsibly within the respect of rights of other citizens, listeners, and viewers.
Yes. And Mr. Moyo, just your final general summary or commentary on the media policy today.
I think this is a great leap forward. We needed this to happen. Fine, there could be debates about improvements here and there. But when we finally get the actual document, I'm sure. But the good thing is that we've got a policy now that guides the media, that guides content creators. And as an industry, we needed this, like I said before. If we're an industry, we need to have policies, we need to have regulations. Otherwise, without policies and regulations, journalism and media creation had been reduced into some hobby of some sort. We need to raise the bar and maintain the dignity and respect of our profession.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moyo, for coming through.
You're
and
welcome.
Again, as a media practitioner, congratulations on the media policy.
Thank you.
Because I believe this touches us more than anyone else. Whilst every Zimbabwean has a duty to play, we are more of the ones in the forefront. And as the President said, to all media practitioners, continue being the cornerstone, or rather be the cornerstone for promoting unity and peace, and make sure you brand Zimbabwe the way it is supposed to be. And about digitalization, I have the privilege to be at Montrose Studios, and I tell you, we are yet to see, actually, the studio is already in place and it's international standards. So it is indeed a good thing, and we're seeing the progress, and I believe we are really on our way to achieving a Vision 2030, not just in the economic space, but as well as in the media, because we are advancing and we are going ahead under the Second Republic. And it has been a beautiful day from us here at Montrose, myself, Dorongube, and the crew behind the scenes. It's a goodbye from us, but we are taking you back to Ian Vambe at Pocket Hill. Ian, back to you.
Thank you so much, Dora, for breaking it down as we witness the launch of the media policy. And of course, like you rightfully said, that so many developments and of course, bragging rights comes to you, as you have seen at the Montreal studios being refurbished to those international standards. Of course, this is what His Excellency was talking about in terms of developing the media space, and media experts have been calling for such to ensure that the landscape is developed all together. Let's hear more voices of the media experts who spoke before the policy was launched.
This is very critical for the sector. Not only for the country, but for the sector, because policies then give direction in terms of the development or the trajectory through which any sector would take. So we think that it is very critical to have a policy. For long in this country, we have not had a media policy, and we think that it is quite a welcome development that we are going to have a media policy. However, there are quite a number of issues as stakeholders in that sector that we have been raising to say that it is important for lawmakers, it is important for our government to have a culture of consultation so that we all input into this policy and have ownership of what we want and ownership of the sector that we are curating. So it is important that we consult. As it stands, some of us haven't even seen or had an opportunity to input into that policy. So we hope that the policy is going to speak to the issues that we have been raising for so long as a sector. Issues of welfare for the journalists, for instance. Issues of welfare for media workers. How do we ensure that our media workers are well paid, our media workers are respected once again? So these are the issues that we want to see within that policy. How do we protect, how do we create a space even that is conducive enough for our workers to be able to work without any encumbrance? So you find that these are the issues that we want to see in that policy. We hope that that policy captures these issues. So the question starts from the issue or a pedestal of sustainability, where we are saying the media as a sector should be sustainable. And it can only be sustainable if the government creates policies that are allowing for that sector to flourish. When the sector flourishes, it means that those that are working within that space are able to be remunerated well and to have better livelihoods. So it is critical that we deal with the issue of welfare. I know when we talk about welfare, most people think about just money, but there are quite a number of issues. How well are you mentally on the job? How do we ensure that there are policies that protect the worker as they go out on the field? How do we ensure that we equip the journalists as they go on the field to do their work? All these are issues of welfare, and we think that it is at the center of any discourse that we can come up with within the sector. And it is most important that the policy addresses these issues. Policies should be pieces of documents that are responsive to the environment, responsive to the demands of the sector. And these are the issues that we are talking about every day, that we think it is important to deal with and ensure that when we talk about social media, the emergence of social media, how do we ensure that we harness that? How do we ensure that those that play within the space of social media retain professionalism? How do we ensure that we protect the sector from what others would say are the dogs that have come to the profession? And we think that it is important that the policy deal with this issue. The policy deals with issues of making sure that we even give security of employment to our journalists.
And of course, the voices that we are hearing of those media practitioners as they get to give us their views, what they say, in as far as ensuring that this policy is launched, and it is explained now, of course, what we have seen. And now let's get to hear one more voice of the media expert in terms of what we have.
The most important thing about the media policy is that it is coming in to foster dialogue among media players and audiences in this regard, citizens. When I was reading the document, I picked that the police is encouraging access to information, freedom of expression, as well as the consolidation of democracy in this country. Without a doubt, the media landscape is facing some challenges, and it is our hope as media practitioners that the police will deal with those problems, especially when it comes to the infiltration of the sector from various peripheral actors, and these peripheral actors are undermining the social responsibility or the social mandate of the media. So our hope is that the police is going to put in place critical measures that ring-fence the profession, that protects the rights of journalists, that also protect the rights of audiences, because when it comes to media production processes, we have to respect media producers as well as the consumers of media content, and it is our hope that the policy is going to do that. And another thing that is key is the alignment of the police with other critical laws in this country, especially the Constitution of Zimbabwe. When it comes to the Constitution of Zimbabwe, you realize that Zimbabwe is a representative democracy, and the police is giving power to the media to play its watchdog role. It is now our hope that media practitioners are going to be guided accordingly and play the oversight role to provide that those who are in positions of power are doing their job and they are pushing sustainable development in Zimbabwe. When it comes to issues of convergence, we have to take note that we have 4 different types of media platforms: traditional media, electronic, print, and digital media. And thanks to the advent of technology and social media platforms, we are seeing an upsurge of podcasters in this country, and these podcasters are playing a very crucial role of enhancing democracy, especially in providing communicative rights to people who were previously disadvantaged. And the police is going to protect that territory. As I said, we need peripheral actors in journalism, we need podcasters, we need social media influencers, because they are part and parcel of the information ecology. And legal media or mainstream journalists can borrow 1 or 2 things from peripheral actors, and peripheral actors can also borrow 1 or 2 lessons, especially when it comes to ethical and professional standards, ethical and professional practices that are expected. Remember, the media plays a very crucial role, not only of informing or educating the public, but also of being the watchdog in this country. And with the right policy implementation, we can see that the peripheral actors can also enhance that role. They can also fight social ills. They can also expose corruption and other problems that are affecting development in this country.
Interesting views coming through from various media players as they comment on the media policy. What they were expecting, these of course were taken before the policy was launched by His Excellency, and of course he has done that, and now the policy is available for people to be browsing and really understanding the key areas, the key dimensions that the policy is addressing, speaking to what needs to be done by the media practitioners, the regulators, and all the involved partners. And right here in studio, we still have our Radio Services Director, Mr. Albert Chekai, who is helping us unpack and dissect issues within this particular policy. Now, Director, we have seen the historic day, the historic event, the policy has been launched. And His Excellency spoke about a lot of issues, but most importantly, when he said it's no longer time for journalists to be competing on how much you can tarnish your image, the image of your country out there. Yeah. How important is that we get to have the head of state stressing on the importance of journalists to desist from tarnishing the image of the country?
Thanks, Ian. What he did there, President Idim Mnangagwa, was to take us back to school.
Right.
What he did was talking about the global media structures. Mm-hmm. You know, in the global media structure, there is what is called the center, and there is what are called the peripheries. And which is the center? The center is Europe, the center is the West, where the news originate from, and we are supposed to be the consumers. In short, we hear the voice of Mozambique through CNN,
Right.
not from Mozambicans themselves. And also when it comes to Zimbabwe, our story is not told by us, but is told by others, and other African nations will hear about us from the centers. And that is simply saying it has to change. What it challenges us to do is to take our rightful position, because those centers, they rely on information from us. So, you know, the 25 years ago, where people were competing for each other to sell stories to the centers, and those stories were negative. It was about tarnishing the image of the country, and we saw the results. Our economy went down, everything went down, and we started now complaining about the welfare issues.
Right.
Yeah, so it's good to know that we are Zimbabweans, and as the media, we should write positive things about us. Is it interesting to talk negative about us? It's just like kufugura hapwa, no, uchitaura zvakaipa zvemumba menyu. It's not right, and these are supposed to be the basics. We don't hear Americans talking the bad things about themselves. They put their country first, and you simply stressed that. And this is the things that we know. It's not really like a new thing, but it's supposed to be the things we know as journalists.
And taking us back into school, just like you did, they're talking of the dangers of a single story. So I would say Chimamanda Ngozi when it comes to the narrative of Africa and Zimbabwe specifically. And His Excellency also spoke about the importance of having ethical journalism rooted in our culture. How much does our culture as a country really shape the narrative we should be showcasing to the world?
What he was speaking is actually more than just culture. Actually, it's deeper into heritage-based broadcast. You know, some years back, it was maybe fashionable to pretend not to know to your own languages.
Right.
But gone are the days, we are a modern generation who should be proud of our own languages. You'd say you saw Dr. Marupi there, the deputy minister, on the podium, he spoke 8 languages, and he can speak more than that. And even the director of ceremony, the chief court, speaks several languages. And I would say, at ZBC, as an example, we have our own station, National FM, which speaks 15 languages. We have 16 in the constitution, and the 16th is the sign language, which we can't do on radio, but we've gone to take 15 of those languages. We have Kulumani FM in Bulawayo that goes for 7 languages that are specific for the particular regions, Mat North, Mat South, and Bulawayo metropolitan provinces. Those are the things that we should be proud of as Zimbabweans, to say this is our culture, this is our language, this is us as Zimbabweans. We should not be ashamed of that, but we should be proud of that, and we should be at the forefront of promoting that into the whole nation at large.
Brilliant. But also looking at the issue of accountability, His Excellency stressed on that to say we must be accountable as a media fraternity. What do you think should be done to enhance accountability of the media players?
So in the past, journalists were always complaining about the law being heavy-handed. We're coming from a period of the Law and Order Maintenance Act, LOMA, which was changed into POSA. The journalists complained again with the AIPA, which was again changed. We now have the Freedom of Information Act. And this has been a transition. But what this policy is saying, which was echoed by the president, is simple to say there has to be accountability. And kutichipinda mkuchachura this policy, it actually has some interesting penalties that can be done. But what is critical is the issue of co-regulation, to say the journalists themselves, together with the Zimbabwe Media Council and the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe, BAZ, which regulates the electronic side, we come together to be able to discipline those who are delinquent in the profession. And one such penalties could be like taking away your your registration. We are supposed to go for registration every single year. We are supposed to be renewing. So if you are delinquent, they have even that platform to say, for this way we are not accrediting you for a particular year, and will feel the pain. And on its own, it's a way of dissuading journalists to do things that are not supposed to be done and toe the line. One other interesting aspect is to say for a period you have been suspended from receiving any awards. You know, in journalism you want to be receiving awards, you want to be doing all those things, and if you are suspended from receiving awards, I think it's painful. It's one of the ways of dissuading people to go above or to go beyond. And one other way could be to say your content could be blocked, which is online. If I'm publishing falsehoods, misinformation and disinformation, and then you may be stand before that committee, which is composed of the media representatives themselves, and maybe the ZMC, that committee is able to sanction you and block your content, which is supposed to be your livelihood. So those are some of the things that we think the right penalties. I just spoke of the 3, but there are others that are coming from the core regulation, not from any court of law, not from any government, but from us as part of the core regulation, to say just toe the line, follow ethics, just be professional and be accountable. Those are the things that are supposed to be done in the media anyway.
Truly interesting that there are now these punishments that people always say, yes, you write this article, the next day you're writing an apology without any punitive measure being introduced. And I'm glad to hear you mention this.
And remember, the apology is always a very small print
in small
that
print
you might
as well.
not even see.
Right, well explained. But let's move on to talk about the issue around the creative content creation apps. His Excellency spoke about how the country has set aside the funds, and they have said we are now availing them for content creation that speaks more to Zimbabwean way of doing things. How key are the dramas, the musical videos, the online content creation we are seeing now for it to be rooted in the culture of us as Zimbabweans?
You know, one thing, Ian, that is interesting about the content creation is the only unique content that we can get as Zimbabweans is our own story. There is no other story outside that has not been told by the owners. The unique story is ours. And the media policy that has been launched is setting aside what is called a media fund.
Right.
And I think the president actually articulated on that, where there would be budget allocation in not only content creation, but in capacity building, so that the people are trained to do that. Once they are trained, there are also funds to now go and tell the Zimbabwean story in the way that we want. When we are doing that, we are actually creating a generation that is proud to be Zimbabwean. It's not good, Ian, to have our own children always admiring the Hollywood stars and everything. That is not Zimbabwean. We are actually creating a generation that is full of self-hate. But once we start creating our own content, the funds being available, I think it's a huge step in actually creating a better generation that is very proud to be Zimbabwean. All other things of writing negative things about Zimbabwe could be the things of the past once the people are proud to be Zimbabwean.
Director, thank you so much for really breaking down this. I hope we'll be able to dissect the media policy with you again when we finally hold the copy and looking into the issues. But your last words to the media practitioners themselves.
Oh yeah, there was the issue of welfare that I think Njabulo spoke of before, and I also saw Perfect Hlongwane spoke about it. It's one critical issue, but I saw it as the first pillar in the policy that has been launched by the president. There is the issue of sustainability. But how did this whole thing come? It was about the case when you have a government of the people, by the people, for the people. The results are always like everyone wants to participate. But once there are many people, the issues of sustainability come. But now, what they are saying in the policy is to allow the media houses to have the flexibility how to survive. You can go for what is called diversity. Diversity is whereby you say you are in the media, but you can also do other things that are not in the media for sustainability purposes. There is also what is called the convergence, where you could be in the print media, But you're allowed to take on broadcasting, radio broadcasting, television broadcasting, digital media, all those things, they take them into one, and as a way of being sustainable, because television audiences globally, they are going down because of the new media.
Right.
Now the policy says you are free to take on all those new media. Even the AI that people are talking about, it's not really an enemy. It's something that we can harness for the benefit of us. Podcasts can even be taken by radio station and television stations, for example. So those are ways of survival, and the policy is actually pointing us towards that, to say find ways of survival, be innovative. It's talking about the innovation and digitalization and innovation. We are allowed to go beyond that for us to survive. Once we do that, we are now able to address welfare issues. And maybe the last thing, when we talk of welfare, one thing journalists would be pleased to know is that this new policy actually allows the creation of a National Employment Council for journalists. We can now go to our neck and negotiate salaries, which was not the case in the past. So it's actually addressing pertinent issues in the industry.
Truly strides have been made, and of course these are the developments we're hearing. Director, thank you so much for coming through. We truly appreciate your time.
You're welcome, Ian, anytime.
Those are the messages and the words coming through from the Director Radio Services right here at the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation. Mr. Albert Chekai was, of course, helping us unpack, look into the historical background, the context of what has happened in Zimbabwe for us to be launching this media policy today. And of course, that's all we had for you. This brings us to the end of this live broadcast. From myself, Ian Wambe, Toranguwe was at our Montreal studios, the team that was on the ground at the State House, and of course, the entire crew behind the scenes to say, stay tuned to ZBC TV.
August 2016, a young boy aged 4 innocently played behind the backyard of his grandparents' homestead in Hompani, a quiet village located in Kai, some 120 kilometers out of Bulawayo, Zimbabwe's second largest city. This is a place that his young life had become so much accustomed to. Little did he know that one day this was going to be different. Consequently, this was also the day that would change his life forever. Someone was watching, hidden under the cover of a forest close to where 4 children were playing, waiting patiently for a perfect moment to execute an evil plan to snatch one of these children. Awakiwe Akim Mnuve became that innocent victim, stolen right under the watch of his grandparents and trafficked into an unknown destination, thousands of kilometers from where he was playing. In this 4-month-long investigation, we revisit Awakiwe Mnuve's trafficking case, which until today remains unsolved. The picture that started it all. Everyone, including his mother, had almost given up on searching for the young boy. In their hearts, they had accepted that the boy was dead. That's until Awakiwe's picture circulated on social media till it reached the grandparents through a neighbor who received it from his son in South Africa. Awakiwe had been found in Kenya and taken in at Happy Life Children's Home, an orphanage center in Nairobi, following the arrest of his traffickers at the Namanga border post in Kenya. On the 26th of November 2016, a Kenyan publication, The Standard, confirmed the arrests of Margaret Juma Magero and her husband, David Ochieng Ometho. According to the reporter, Joaquim Bwana, Margaret Juma Magero and her husband, David Ochieng Ometho, were charged at the Shanzu Law Courts for kidnapping 3 minors. The couple, according to the Kenyan police, were part of an international child trafficking syndicate that trafficked children to Switzerland. Consequently, this couple was also linked to the abduction and suspected trafficking of Awakiwe from his rural home in Kai. For Nobekezelo Maseko, Awakiwe's mother, the evidence of his son alive in Kenya was shocking as much as it was the most amazing revelation she had wished for over the last 5 years since his son disappeared.
Ukwenza kwakhe ngoba wayebambisisa vele into encane nje ngizwe abanye bekhuluma into yesikole bekhuluma ngento abazifunde esikole uzamuzwa la esekuhlabele sokukhuluma vele umthwalo embhekane la unzima kakhulu ngoba uyabonga kwazi umntana wakho uzaphinda umbone lokuthi ugcinwe njani uhlezi lobani lokuthi kuhamba njani ukuthi umuntu ohlezi la umuntu ololaka kumbe umuntu onjani uyabonga kwazi ukuthi uhamba njani so into lena vele yabini ngenza abuse ke enhlizweni yami ngithwale nzima ngizibuza ukuthi umntana wami lapha khona uhamba njani ukuthi ngizaphila sibila zafike hayi into yabi nzima sibili lanxa ngikhangela abanye abantwana nje abangaba isize wacatshela kiyo nyabe nsizwe obunye ubuhlungu obukhulu kakhulu ngakuthatha izwi ukuthi enxe ngumntwana ozabonakala kodwa into yakhona yasuka yaba nzima lokho ukuthi vele ngangasakwazi lokuthini ngoba ngathola ukuthi umntwana ulokho engabonakala into yakhona ngakhala sibili izinyembezi ngehlisa izinyembezi abanye abantu abadala bazibathi hayi akukhalwa noma kunjalo umntwana yanyamalala impela ngizange ngiziqinise ngasithi ngingabangeda but ngangikwanisa ukuthi inyembezi azivele zithonta ngoba la khathe sokungafika enhlizweni yami inyembezi yathonta vele umntwana kwathatha 2 weeks lokho ungazwakala then kwasokusiyaphuma kuma social media after 2 weeks khona umnyaka vele ungakakwani ngaleso sikhathi kungakazwakali sibili ngangalali vele mina lo buthongo ngangabazi